So clever! This is a cooperative game of indirect communication. Players are gonna prepare clues to communicate certain words or the placement of certain words to other players, and it's cooperative, so you prepare the riddle, so to speak, for the other players. They're gonna solve them, you're gonna try to solve the ones that they prepare for you, and you score points, and you're just trying to get as many points as possible, so after the first time that you play it, you're gonna try to beat your previous score. Each player receives one of these plastic clovers. Also, the game, the box says you can play 3 to 6. It's entirely possible to play with only 2 players if you prepare multiple clovers, and you will see what that means. And then each player, after getting their clover, receives four of these cards, of course, drawn randomly from this deck, and you have these cards with 4 words on the side and with a square hole in the middle. And once you get them, you place them randomly on your clover, just like so. Then you take your dry erase marker, and everybody does this at the same time. This is how we set up the game. And then you look at the 4 sides of the clover. As you can see, 2 words will be facing each of the sides. And you need to find a word, a single word, that connects the 2 words. For example, mummy and explore, I'm thinking dungeon. I guess pyramid would be even more specific, but I'll go with dungeon. Giant, market, oh, that's Gencon, that's easy. Arrow and France, Agincourt. And physical and chess, I'll go with the name of a piece, like, I don't know, the king. There you go. So once I write that, I take the cards, I remove them from there. I draw a random card and I shuffle them all together. All this has happened without showing my words to my friends and partners in crime. And that's it. Basically, everybody will prepare exactly that. A clover with the 4 clues, placed face down, and with a stack of 5 cards, 4 real ones that the clues are based on, and 1 randomly selected. You can make the game harder by adding more random cards there. So once everybody has set up that, pretty simple. We take one of them, we flip it face up. The person that prepared the clover does not say anything. They'll simply silently judge what the other players are doing. And the other players are looking at these and are trying to figure out the placement. So, explore dungeon, that seems like it may be right. But see, that's interesting because it's not just about the connections, there's a true element of spatial placement. One of my daughters described this as Sudoku with words. Because not just that, because Dungeon Explorer may go in 2 different directions. So, well, does Genka look giant more than the king look like has something to do with a barn? Yeah, I think I'll go with that. And then, of course, again, it's tricky because you also have the ones that don't have anything. So you have to look at, again, because they're a random one that just doesn't fit. And so I say, okay, market, king, Gencon. So you just have to figure it out. If you can place a solid one to anchor the other ones around, that's great. But then, of course, you may make a mistake. There's one that looks very, very solid because when you were preparing the clover, you did not necessarily look at all of the other ones, or you didn't look as close as you believed that you had. Plus, there's going to be a random one that maybe will just so happen like, oh, well, That sounds pretty amazing because a king is supposed to have a beard. I mean, to eat bread. I see. For example, maybe I misread that as beard and flight of Agincourt. That also works. So mistakes will happen, and that will make the game fun. So the person that prepared the clover doesn't see anything as the other players try to figure it out. When they have an hypothesis, hey, because maybe you like Monty Python, so Rabbit and Dungeon, that makes perfect sense. And the king is a physical entity. So once the group has an hypothesis, they simply show it to the person who prepared the clover, and they ask how many they got them right. If all of them are right, which is not the case here, the group scores 6 points, which is 1 point for each card that was placed correctly, plus 2 points for being so awesome and doing it the first time. If some are not correct, then the players removes the player that prepared the clover removes the ones that are incorrect, and the other players have a chance of trying again. And then if they get it right the second time, they only score a point for each card that is placed correctly. So actually, if all of them are correct, but is the second guess, is only 4 points. And so this is the idea. Once we have solved one clover and scored it, we move to the next until all clovers have been resolved. And at that point, you see how many points you scored, and next time you try to do better. As I said, you can do this with 2 players. So each player prepares 2 clovers or 3. There is really no. It's your game. There is no barrier there. Not at least you're not gonna get complaints from me. You're playing the game, having fun. Hooray. So this is so clever. It is very, very simple idea. As you see, so many of these like word games, clue games, hinting at something indirectly games, they really are. They tend to be so simple, and yet they can be, in fact, very, very clever. Very, very clever. It's all about how you reimagine this by now known idea in a way that is still enjoyable. And here, really, the only twist pretty much is, well, the cooperative thing is very cool. But the main twist is the spatial element, the fact that those 4, one will imply something about the other, and if you have a clue that looks very good, they will go into possible positions. It really feels like a Sudoku with words. It really feels like a spatial puzzle. So I played this game with my family, which means with my daughters, Mel and Louisa, who are currently 9 and 11, and also played it with my wife, who is currently of an age which is just right. We don't talk about such things. She's very young, but not young to the point that it gets weird for me to. You know what I mean? We play with the entire family. That's what I mean. That's all that they care, and everybody enjoyed it. It's really a good family game. When the Delta variant is over and I start having a game night with my friends again, I think this game will also work very well, because it's just the kind of game that you can play with non-gamers, you can play with young gamers. Everybody will do different things, see different things in there, but you can play it definitely with adult gamers. This is the kind of game that, adult, committed, hardcore gamers, they will enjoy as a filler, probably, mind you, but as one that has some real nice thinking to it. The setup may seem elaborate, but it's actually pretty fun as you're trying to figure out keywords for your friends, and everybody does it at the same time, so that does not slow down the game. The hardest part, of course, is to just be completely straight face as you see your friends making egregious mistakes, or you realize, oh gosh, I didn't see that word may indeed would have possibly looked like this way or that way. It's fun. It's simple, it's light, it's fun, but it's ingenious. And of course, it's so much more fun, based on what people bring to the table, based on the individual creativity. And that's where the real beauty is. See how the people come up with things and very creative sometimes, very silly some of the times, and how you yourself act incredibly smart one round, and you miss something incredibly simple the next. So clever. It's a game that may resemble many games that you played in the last couple of years in this sort of like range and this sort of family. But what it does it very well as a simple, light, and yet very entertaining word game.